My sister-in-law impersonated child services and said, "We need to take your baby when it's born because your husband has a criminal record." I called my lawyer and discovered she wasn't real. But what Kelly didn't know was that I'm not just some naive pregnant teacher she could terrorize. I'm Jessica, 28, and I work as a senior financial analyst specializing in fraud detection for a major consulting firm. My husband, Oscar, is a licensed electrician with his own contracting business. Between us, we pull in $180,000 annually and have connections throughout the legal and business community that most people don't have access to. When that woman in the navy blazer showed up at our Ohio ranch house claiming to be from Children's Services, my analytical training immediately kicked in. Something felt off about her demeanor, her questions, and her procedures. But I let her conduct her charade because I knew documentation would be crucial if this turned into something bigger. The moment she left, I started building a case file. Every detail went into a spreadsheet. Her physical description, the exact words she used, the timing of her visit, the specific documents she claimed to have. Oscar thought I was being paranoid, but fraud detection had taught me that seemingly random incidents often reveal calculated patterns. 3 days later, when she called with her threat about the hospital seizing our baby, I recorded the conversation on my phone. Her claim that other agencies might get involved because of Oscar's 9-year-old misdemeanor conviction made no legal sense. In Ohio, Child Services doesn't initiate investigations on pregnant women based solely on old minor criminal records. I'd researched family law extensively when we started trying to conceive, specifically because of Oscar's background. That night, I posted our situation in several legal forums using throwaway accounts. The responses confirmed my suspicions. Everything about Margaret's visit violated standard child services protocols. Real investigators don't demand immediate drug tests, don't conduct invasive home searches without court orders, and definitely don't threaten to remove newborns based on decades-old misdemeanors. By morning, I had a 3-point action plan. First, I'd verify Margaret's employment through official channels. Second, I'd document everything for potential criminal charges. Third, I'd activate my professional network to ensure this person faced consequences for whatever game she was playing. Robert Brennan, the family attorney Oscar's uncle had used, squeezed us into his schedule that afternoon. When I presented my organized file of evidence, Brennan immediately recognized the severity of what we were dealing with. He put the call to Children's Services on speaker, and within minutes we had confirmation. No employee named Margaret, no case involving our family, no reports ever filed about us. Brennan explained that impersonating a government worker was a federal felony. But more importantly for our situation, it suggested someone with personal motivation was targeting us specifically. This wasn't random fraud. This was calculated harassment designed to terrorize us during a vulnerable time. We drove straight to the police station. Detective Hayes took detailed statements and photographs of all my documentation. She praised my systematic approach to evidence gathering, noting that most impersonation victims don't create such comprehensive records. My fraud detection background had given us a significant advantage in building a prosecutable case. That evening, I implemented additional security measures. I alerted our obstetrician, arranged for hospital security during delivery, and created backup documentation for all our legal and medical records. We moved to Oscar's parents' house temporarily, but I continued monitoring our home security system remotely. Emma was born 2 weeks later, without incident. Hospital security had Margaret's complete description and maintained extra vigilance throughout our stay. But I knew this wasn't over. Someone had invested significant time and resources into this elaborate deception, and pregnancy impersonation cases typically involve deeper motives than simple harassment. 3 days after Emma's birth, Detective Hayes called with shocking news. They'd arrested someone in connection with our case, and we needed to identify the suspect. When she told us the name, Oscar went completely silent. Kelly, his own sister, had been the one terrorizing us. During the drive to the police station, pieces started falling into place. Kelly's recent financial struggles, her fertility issues, her increasingly erratic behavior around our pregnancy. She'd been visiting our house regularly under the guise of helping, which gave her access to our routines, our concerns about Oscar's past, and our medical information. Detective Hayes explained that Kelly had confessed to everything. She'd made the initial false report to Child Services, researched government worker protocols online, purchased the professional clothing at thrift stores, and practiced her Margaret persona for weeks. Her plan was sophisticated. She'd hoped the fake investigation would convince us to consider adoption, positioning herself as the perfect solution for both our problem and her infertility struggles. The level of premeditation was staggering. Kelly had created fake social media accounts to monitor our pregnancy posts, driven by our house multiple times to observe our schedules, and even contacted out-of-state adoption agencies about private placement procedures. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was calculated fraud designed to steal our child. When the prosecutor offered Kelly a plea deal in exchange for avoiding trial, Oscar initially wanted to accept it. He was devastated by his sister's betrayal and wanted the situation resolved quickly. But I refused to let her escape full consequences for what she'd done. My professional experience had taught me that fraud perpetrators who avoid serious punishment typically escalate their behavior. Kelly needed to understand that her actions had destroyed her relationship with our family permanently, and that future attempts at manipulation would result in even harsher penalties. During Kelly's sentencing hearing, I delivered a victim impact statement that detailed exactly how her deception had affected our family. I quantified the financial costs: $8,500 in legal fees, $2,200 for additional security measures, $1,800 in lost work time, $900 in medical expenses for pregnancy stress. I described the emotional trauma of believing our newborn child might be seized by authorities. Most importantly, I explained how her calculated cruelty had made it impossible for us to ever trust her around our daughter. The judge sentenced Kelly to 18 months in prison with mandatory counseling and restitution payments totaling $13,400. She also received a permanent restraining order prohibiting any contact with our family. Oscar's parents were devastated, but they understood that Kelly's actions had crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed. During the trial, even more disturbing details emerged. Kelly had researched our financial situation extensively, determining that we had sufficient resources to support a legal fight if her plan went wrong. She'd assumed that family loyalty would prevent us from pressing criminal charges, and that her fertility struggles would earn sympathy from relatives and investigators. She'd severely underestimated both my professional capabilities and my willingness to protect my family from calculated threats. My fraud detection expertise had turned her elaborate deception into an airtight criminal case, and my documentation had made prosecution straightforward rather than complex. 10 months later, Kelly was released on parole with strict conditions and community service requirements. Against Oscar's explicit wishes, his mother Linda had informed Kelly that we were living back in our own home. 2 weeks after her release, Kelly violated her restraining order by showing up at our house with a gift for Emma. The moment I saw her through our window, I activated our security system and called both Oscar and the police. Kelly's attempt to play the remorseful aunt asking for forgiveness was irrelevant. She'd legally violated her parole conditions, and I was determined to ensure she faced additional consequences. Her parole officer contacted us the next day to discuss the violation. Based on my detailed incident report and security footage, Kelly faced potential return to prison. Rather than risk additional jail time, she agreed to relocate to a different county and maintain zero contact with our family. This incident finally convinced Oscar that his mother couldn't be trusted to respect our boundaries regarding Kelly. Linda had enabled the restraining order violation by providing Kelly with our address, then acted surprised when Kelly used that information. We implemented supervised visitation rules for all family members who maintained contact with Kelly. Currently, Emma is walking and talking, completely unaware of the drama that preceded her birth. Kelly remains 2 hours away, working at a restaurant and attending mandated counseling sessions. Her parole ends next summer, but the permanent restraining order ensures she cannot legally contact us, regardless of her supervision status. The experience taught us that family relationships don't excuse criminal behavior, and that professional expertise can be crucial in protecting against sophisticated manipulation. Kelly's attempt to terrorize us during pregnancy backfired completely. Instead of gaining access to our child, she permanently lost her place in our family and faced serious legal consequences that will follow her for years. My fraud detection background had been the key advantage she never anticipated. What she saw as a vulnerable pregnant couple turned out to be a strategic analyst with legal connections and systematic documentation skills. Sometimes the best defense against family manipulation is treating it with the same professional seriousness you'd apply to any other criminal fraud scheme.